I think a pretty common experience for autistic people is creating systems, not necessarily habits, but systems that guide our existence. And with those systems come a lot of internally imposed rules. Hi, my name is Heather. I am a 47-year-old late diagnosed autistic and ADHD human, and I make content about my life as a neurodivergent and my personal struggles, and hopefully you can relate to this video. So I've been reviewing my systems lately because clearly they are not working for me. And I kind of just stopped using a lot of the systems that I had over the past couple of years because they didn't save me or fix me or make everything better. And what do I mean by save me or fix me? And I think with that, I mean, my mental health has been suffering. If you've watched any of my other videos, you know that. And I think I had the false impression for many years that if I just did X, Y, and Z, I would be fine. I would do well, things would work out, and my health would be great. And that just was not true. So my health has declined over the past few years, along with my mental health. And I think those two go hand in hand for pretty much everybody. But a lot of the systems that I had in place, like yoga every day, no fail. Every morning I would get up and do 20 minutes of yoga. I am a certified yoga instructor. And I had done that for 15 plus years, and it served me well. It did. But when I started getting dizzy all the time and feeling like garbage and my body started betraying me, I stopped doing yoga because I felt like I wasn't physically able to do it. I didn't know if I was making things worse. And if I'm being honest, I was disappointed that my system did not save me from ill health. And I've put in place a lot of systems over the years that maybe they were subconscious and I didn't realize that's what I was doing, but I have practices, systems that I do every day that kind of keep me on track as far as like being human. And when I went into this burnout freeze state, everything felt impossible. All of my systems that felt like they were automatic, I could not force myself to do anymore. And not having those systems to fall back on, not having those XYZ things in place every day that I knew I could go back to, I think really did lead to the downfall in my mental health, and probably my physical health too. I've always felt like I've been really great at setting up systems and starting over. And my resilience was always really good because, you know, like everybody else, I've had a lot of terrible crap happen in my life and dealt with a lot of trauma and dealt with a lot of stuff and always seemed to bounce back. But the bounce back this time just doesn't seem to be happening. And I think that is because the systems that I've always relied on to protect me, to make life a certain way, just are no longer working for me at this point in my life. And it's very hard, I think, as an autistic person to realize that because we are so used to working for sameness. We want things to be the same. We want things to be comfortable. We want things to be, I mean, even repetitive, right? Like there's comfort in repetition. There's comfort in a routine, in a system. There's comfort in knowing that no matter what is going on outside in the world, outside of you, that these things will always be in place for you. And I think that just dropping all of that because nothing seemed to be helping me and nothing was working for me anymore led me down this very dark, nihilistic path that nothing was going to work ever again, that nothing would ever help me. No system I could put in place would ever fix or help with where I am now. But I had to come to the understanding, and I did this over my 2-week cray-cray staycay, my mental breakdown that I had over the past couple weeks, where I was out of work. I realized that I am not the same person that I was. And that's why those systems do not work for me anymore. My body is different. My brain is different. Trauma changes your brain. It does. It makes you more reactive, whether you realize it or not. It changes your body. It changes your posture. It changes your vagal tone. It changes everything. And that, along with the massive hormonal shifts that are happening in my body right now and the changes to my physical body, those things just aren't going to work for me anymore because I'm not that person anymore. And I think the thing that led me to this realization is something very odd and embarrassing, and I don't really want to talk about it, but I have dental issues, as a lot of us do. A lot of us have dental issues, but mine are also kind of caused by the connective tissue disorder that I have, which is hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. It affects connective tissue in every system of your body, to include your teeth, your jaw. One of the signs, actually, of hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos, one of the things they look at is a very high palate, very high arched palate, which I have. I cannot put my tongue against the roof of my mouth flat, period. It just doesn't do that. I can stick my whole thumb up in there and it pretty much disappears. But over the past 6 months to a year, my teeth have shifted in my mouth radically. My lower jaw has started moving together. My teeth are no longer straight. They were straight for years. I have started losing teeth with no pain. They just crumble and fall out. And silly as it sounds, it took me looking at my teeth one night and noticing the shift and the change and the difference in my jaw, in my mouth, in the way I'm able to eat, in the way I'm able to do simple everyday things, made me realize that I am not the same person that I was a year ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago. So those systems that I had in place to protect me and to create sameness and all these things just aren't going to work anymore. If my body, my teeth, can change so radically in under a year, imagine what else is going on with my other systems, with the rest of my body. And something as simple as eating. And another thing that happened while I was out on this mental health break was I got very physically ill. I had norovirus. I was vomiting and both ends for 3 days, could not keep water down, couldn't eat anything. And that was another system breaker for me because I wasn't able to have coffee. And I have been somebody that has got up and had coffee every morning my entire life. Like, coffee was a bonding thing when I was a kid because I was raised by my grandparents, and then I would go visit my other grandparents on the weekends, and we would have coffee milk, which was basically a little bit of coffee with a whole lot of milk in it. But for me, that was a ritual, and it became a lifelong ritual of waking up and having coffee. And you can call it an addiction if you want. It probably is, because it is a chemical substance that I felt like I couldn't live without. But after those 4 days of not having it, and realizing how much cortisol, how much all these other things had been building up in my system that I had just purged, it was gone. I realized I didn't have to have the coffee when I woke up in the morning. So that was a huge system change for me. Trying to realize that now, because of the hormonal changes, because of the age I'm at, because of the body that I'm in, my system needs something different. I can't just get up and have coffee anymore and spike my cortisol through the roof and expect to make it through the day without a huge crash in the afternoon. Even though this is something I've done my whole life, it was very hard, and it took a very violent bodily action for me to realize this had to change. So the new system that I have put in place is I get up in the morning, I drink electrolyte water for the first hour that I'm awake while my cortisol is already spiked. And then I allow myself to have a cup of coffee with protein powder in it, and I eat. Because food has always been a struggle for me as well, and disordered eating and things like that, also very common amongst autistic people. I never ate breakfast until I got to work. I would have 2 or 3 cups of coffee on an empty stomach. I would stop and get Dunkin' on my way in, and then I would come in and have a little cup full of trail mix and call it good. And again, my body has been screaming at me for years now to stop doing this, but because it was part of my system, part of my everyday autopilot, do this thing, I didn't really question it. And I can tell you, after a week of implementing this new system, the changes are radical. Like it's unbelievable even to me that now I do have energy to kind of last through the day. And I don't have that morning nausea and dizziness and things like that I basically was doing to myself by spiking my cortisol every morning. It would have been awesome to have a doctor tell me this after all the specialist visits and the many, many, many trips to various different doctors for all of these health issues that I have, that, hey, how much coffee are you drinking a day? How much caffeine are you consuming? When do you consume it? Have you looked at your cortisol schedule? Like, how do you wake up at between 3 and 4 in the morning every morning, which I was, because my cortisol was spiking? Do you wake up with a rapid heartbeat and feeling like you're having an anxiety attack? And I was. And that was one of my main complaints when I went to see a cardiologist, was like, I shouldn't be tachycardic when I'm standing up making a cup of coffee in the morning. And nobody said, stop making the cup of coffee in the morning. Again, things that appear like common sense to a lot of people do not always come in as common sense for me. I'm very reliant on my routines. I'm very reliant on my systems, and I don't always realize that those systems aren't working, or that just a small, simple change in my system or my routine could create massive benefits for me. And often it does take something like a violent change, a massive blowout, literally, in this case, to make me realize that is not working for me. So now I have started kind of breaking down and examining all of my systems, from even creating these videos. Is that harmful for me? Am I rehashing experiences that maybe my brain doesn't need to replay or reiterate for the world at large? Am I too concerned with subscribers or followers or any of that, which I never really have been. But of course, it's hard when you're creating something not to look at the numbers and the data and the analytics that come in. So I have been reviewing that system as well. Like, do I need to still create? Is that something that's helpful for me? And weighing the odds on that, I think, yes, it is. It is helpful for me. And I do get comments from you guys all the time that something I've said that I felt was small and insignificant has been helpful for you. So that kind of pushes me to keep going. And I realize that this is something that I enjoy. And so that is a system I will keep in place. But other systems and other things that I have done or I have put down because I felt like they weren't working for me, I'm now reevaluating. Like the yoga. Yes, I have hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos. Yes, I have orthostatic hypotension. But that does not mean I cannot do yoga, which I did feel like that for a very long time. Like, as soon as I realized that I had this connective tissue disorder and that that's the reason I'm so good at yoga and I can get into the poses, my brain said, oh, well, you shouldn't do that because you're making it worse every time you practice. But I realized I've been practicing for 15 years, not making anything worse by doing what I was doing. So, long video, I guess, all to say that sometimes our systems and the things that we have put in place and the rules that we have put in place to protect us, to keep us safe, or to keep us healthy have to be reevaluated, because they don't always transfer to the next stage of life or to the phase of life that you are in right now. And that no one may tell you this but me, because no one told me this. And I guess, again, maybe it's supposed to be common sense to reevaluate the way you do things. But for me, it wasn't. And I just was going back to what felt comfortable for me, what provided my brain comfort and routine and a steady system to follow. And now I know that those systems aren't always helping me, and that comfort is not necessarily what I need to always aim for, because life is full of discomfort. I'm having to learn to just be okay with my body as it is now and the changes that it is going through, and to try to support it with grace and the healthiest habits that I can for me now in this phase of my life. I used to be somebody who went to the gym, who worked out very hard, like to the point that I would hurt myself every time, couldn't walk afterwards, but I was killing it. And my muscles looked great. And I was thin and I felt healthy and strong. But now I know I can't do that anymore. My body's not built for that, and it's not helping me. But I need there to be a happy medium. I need there to be something between complete sedentary lifestyle, no activity whatsoever, and killing myself in the gym. So again, I have to put a new system in place. I have to evaluate where I am now in my life and how it looks for me to be healthy and give myself grace. Because the constant voice in my head is that I am failing and I am doing it wrong and I am not doing life well. And that feels very pointless. And I can't continue on that line of thought. So if you've hung out with me this far, I appreciate it. And I would love to hear about, maybe if you've thought about this after watching this video, what systems maybe you have in place in your life that provides you with comfort, with regularity, that maybe aren't serving you anymore, that maybe aren't working for you in your life as it is right now. Because I do think if I'd been able to reevaluate some of these things a while back, that maybe I wouldn't have gotten to the point that I am now. But again, I stopped myself, because internally my brain's like, stop recriminating yourself for what you didn't know. You didn't know what you didn't know then. You know now. I'm learning. I'm doing better. So what would you change, or could you think about changing in your life, in your systems, in your comfort routines, that may help you move forward in this stage of life? What can you reevaluate? Because I'm reevaluating everything at this point. Because, total system failure is kind of when you need to go back and look and see what are we doing wrong? What can we do different? So that's where I am right now. And as always, I thank you for joining me. I thank you for listening. I hope this gave you some kind of reflective insight for yourself, or maybe some understanding of autistic brains and how we set up systems and routines to create regularity, to create consistency, because the world is inconsistent. The world is full of calamities, and to ensure the safety of our nervous system, we often put these things in place to protect ourselves, but they're not always really helping or really protecting us. I don't want to be a fragile person. I want to go back to feeling resilient, because, like I said, life is always going to continue throwing things at me, and I can't let it break me again. So I hope you enjoyed this little review of systems, and I hope this gave you some food for thought, and I hope that you have a great day. Take care of yourself. Love you. Bye.